There's been a recent rise in women receiving a diagnosis later in life for conditions like autism and ADHD. Now, there's lots of reasons why this might be. Lack of awareness, medical misinformation, or simply because girls often behave very differently from boys. Now, without the support they need, these girls can struggle to function in adulthood and often end up being misdiagnosed. It's only when they reach crisis point that they finally can learn the truth. Wow. All four of us have had a later in life diagnosis, and a year ago to the day, actually, to this very, I didn't know that. Was that planned? In fact, oh, it wasn't. So there is somebody speaking to me here. I spoke to you guys about mine for the first time.
So you've provided me with some really, really lovely examples of your childhood, the things that you experienced in school and how your deficits have impacted you as you've gone through life, and the symptoms that you exhibit are consistent with ADHD.
I don't know why that makes me cry. Sorry.
Can I just say something to you? From what I've picked up from talking to you today, we focus quite a lot on the deficits, you know, when we're looking at these symptoms, because they do have a negative impact in somebody's life. But you are very typical of somebody with lots of ADHD symptoms that can be very positive for a person.
When I burst into tears, Rebecca actually, I think, might have thought I was crying because I had ADHD. But actually, why I was upset was I couldn't accept that there was some sort of reason for this chaos, like, all through my life. Well, yeah, you know what, and thinking on since then, it was actually a relief. Yeah. When I think about it, if they'd said to me you didn't have ADHD, I would have just had to have gone back to thinking all these really negative things. The voice that's constantly underneath everything that I'm doing. Oh, hi, everyone. Oh, just ignore me. Oh, I'm rubbish. Oh, I'm terrible. All this masking that I'd built up. There was a glimmer of hope that if I had this, then maybe all this stuff that I thought about myself wasn't particularly true. And it was funny that day, that show, because we were talking backstage about all the symptoms of ADHD, and this one
They gave us a form.
This one went, well, hang on.
Everyone else was doing the odd tick. I hadn't thought about it, and I had repetitive strain injury by the time I'd done it.
To which I said to her, Denise, come on, you must have known you've got ADHD. We always said it's a good job we weren't in class together. We'd have been a
we would have just
nightmare.
been constantly separated. So as a result of that, and as a result of some other ladies saying to Nadia, we didn't know if it was going to be you or Denise Welch, and I thought, oh my God,
because it's so obvious on the show that you've got ADHD.
So I went and mind, Jane Moore said I interrupt all the time, and I said, well, yeah, but there's no medication will stop me interrupting you, Jane, if I think you're boring. But we have to have a laugh about it. But anyway, subsequently, I went along to be diagnosed, and lo and behold, I got my ADHD diagnosis, and it is a form of relief. I also was emotional, but it is a relief because it explains when you talk about the chaos. It's like I'm looking here now, and It's the minutiae of life that overwhelms me, that doesn't overwhelm other people. Sometimes big things, big trauma I can deal with, but the minutiae. So I create clutter, but I'm a tidy person trapped in an untidy body. So I want, but because I can't create it, and it's this constant struggle going on. And so it was kind of a relief, and I started to have some therapy for it. I also now don't know, and still trying to work out how much of a link there is to what happened when I had Matty with the you know, the clinical depression, we called it then, not just postnatal depression, because it's lasted all of my life. And then, of course, what we will talk about is the other things that lead on to addiction. Impulsive behaviour, addiction, promiscuity.
Yeah.
You know, I questioned myself when I was 18. I used to say I had a man's attitude to sex. And that was really a way of saying, why was I wired differently to other people? It's not everything that happened as a result of this condition I regret, but it explains the behaviours and it makes us accept that we are just wired a bit differently, and that's OK.
And what about Because you weren't diagnosed till you were in your 20s,
Yeah, I was diagnosed like 2003. I was working in social care at the time, and, you know, coming from a cultural, like, a West Indian cultural background, growing up, it wasn't the thing of, like, if there is a learning difference. It's like, just do your work, yeah? So, you know, I remember working in a workplace, and there was a woman there that worked there who I really was inspired by. She was a very empowering, powerful, strong black woman, yeah, and she was so supportive. And I remember one time going in the room and she was typing, she had this finger out her mouth and the screen was yellow in different bits, and I said to her, what you do? She goes, I got dyslexia, girl, right? and then she was like, I'm looking at your work, I think you got dyslexia too. So I was like, what do you do? She said, go and get tested, right? So I got tested, got a free laptop.
Now that's relatable.
I love to learn, but I saw my pattern from young. Every course I started, I didn't do, I failed or I stopped halfway through. So I went and did that 2003, and then I thought, OK, let me go and do my degree in 2007, had another test, and then, you know, I had all the support. And then I went and did my master's. And that makes me feel emotional because it was always a thing for me to get that higher level of education because I was always told that I wouldn't.
You couldn't do it.
Always felt like I would. But I knew there was something in me that could. It's just that I learnt differently. So
I think
that's
I
how my
can categorically
diagnosis went.
say that you're one of the smartest people that I have ever met.
Yeah. God.
Nobody can have that wit without having an incredible brain.
Imagine now you're as well, dyslexia, undiagnosed dyslexia. Even just when I was at school, you know, you were made to wear a dunce's cap with D on it and stand in a corner. And that
we born in Victorian
people
times.
with dyslexia.
I thought that was very old. Very old. Christine, I just want to, because you stayed the night, didn't you, last night in London? Were you in a beige hotel room? Because I remember you saying...
Yeah. I like everything quite basic, quite plain. I don't like patterns. I've got a lot better with work, with doing a lot more. We both took part in Celebrity Hunted this year, which has helped a lot because I didn't have a choice in where I was going to stay, and that's helped loads. But yeah, I've noticed a big difference in myself since I got diagnosed. It's still slowly, but compared to how I was in my 20s, very, very strict on routine, very strict on everywhere I went, where I stayed, what food I ate. Now I understand why I was like that. I'm more keen to push my own boundaries. I know I've got 3 little children looking at me, and I don't want them to have any restrictions at all.
And it's the funny little things, isn't it, that people might not know. Like, we were bonding on this backstage about labels in our clothes.
Oh, I've always cut them out.
It's just your standard, just ripping them off. And something like that could really irritate a child all day. And you might just say to them, oh, don't be so silly. But actually, it can make you lose all focus, can't it?
But I never knew that people were like that about labels until today, until you said it.
Not everybody with ADHD has that.
I've got no labels in my clothes. And again, people think that I cut out my Primark things and stitch Prada into it. Just because I can't bear the label.
For me, it's more about names. That's where it gets me nervous, names.
Don't terrify. Remember a face, never a name.